This is ProPresenter. When you pull it up, this is what it's gonna look like most of the time. Actually, pretty much all the time. It's kind of a linear built program, so left to right. The left right here is the library, or all of your libraries. For us, we really only have one. And then you have all of your playlists down here. So when a library is selected up here, you'll be able to see all of the playlists that have ever been created down here on this bottom left corner. And then the library stores all of our presentations. And basically what a presentation is it's a group of slides. So that would be a song, a sermon, our bumper videos. That's what a presentation would be. And if I click on one, you obviously pull it up. You'll see it pulled up here. That's a 5-minute countdown. One of these is a sermon from a long time ago. But we keep one library for Sunday services. Some people like to do like a library for songs, a library for sermon notes, a library for all that kind of stuff. For us, just kind of keep it all in one. And then right here are your playlists. So a playlist would be like our Sunday services. So if I click on this playlist here, you can see this was this past week. You can see headers that help us know kind of which is where. So headers for pre-service info loop, 5-minute countdowns, worship and welcome set, all kind of right here underneath this playlist. So all of these contents in here, offering anything is possible, those are all presentations that are stored in a library, but it's also put into a playlist so it's easily accessible on a Sunday morning. The center view here, so kind of this box, all here, this is what is called the show view. So this is where you're gonna see all the slides for a song, for videos, that kind of stuff. To add a slide into like let's do like in a sermon. To add a slide, you'd click this button right down here. This little plus button. From there you can add a new slide, or there's themes, and we'll go over what those themes are later. But that would be an easy way to add a slide into a presentation. Right down here on the bottom left-hand corner is how slides transition. And so the one that's highlighted right here is like a cut transition, so it's like quick, goes one right to the other. So if you'll see in the preview window on the right side, it's a quick cut, not like a crossfade. But if I went to like a dissolve and gave it about like 2 seconds, it would be a really slow fade from one to the other. So right down here is how you customize those transitions from slide to slide. And then on the bottom right-hand corner here is what is called the views. And so basically in every location, we use this grid view, and that's what you're seeing right now. If I go to this second one, which is called the easy view, you'll see that it makes the text that's on the screens kind of easier to see. The only bad thing is like you can't then see the videos and stuff. And then there's a table view, which then puts everything like this. There's also options down here that you can edit some of the text for. I think for the easy view, this is where you would edit the text and you can make it larger. So you could do like that. And that doesn't affect the actual like font size that goes out to the TVs, right? So that's how the easy view becomes more of an easier view. But this grid version is the way to go. I think it's the easiest to read, the easiest to be like, okay, this is what it looks like when it goes out to the TV, so I'm good. This little bar right here would make the grids, each slide smaller so you could fit more into the box. I personally kind of like this better for the sermon, just so I can maybe see more at one time in case the speaker jumps around. I at least can read like 3 or 4 ahead. Or you can make them larger so they're a little bit easier to read, but then you obviously have less slides available to you at the same time. So that's more of a preference thing, whatever works best for you. One of the things you can see is as I'm scrolling through this playlist here, a playlist is a Sunday service, it's going automatically to the next presentation or the next song. This is called continuous view. And so this is something that you don't have to do on a Sunday. They should always stay the same. But here's like a little bit of a deeper dive, which is what this training is going to allow us to do. If you wanted to turn continuous view off, which I don't really know why you would in our situation, but maybe outside of a Sunday service, you could go to View, Continuous View, click that off, and now you'll only see my response. But if I click Too Good to Not Believe, then you'll see Too Good to Not Believe. Click Offering, you'll see Offering, but you can't scroll up and down. So I also tell you that just in case you come into a Sunday and somehow that got clicked off, like, because sometimes the devil just wants to mess with us and do random stuff. And so if you come in and you're like, Steven, all I have is Offering, but it says I have all this stuff. Go to View and Continuous Playlist, and you'll be able to just continually scroll throughout the entire service, or playlist is what ProPresenter calls it. All right, that takes me to the right side here, this section. And also, like, all of these, you can click and drag to make them bigger or smaller. If we had a really, really long service and you needed to kind of do this, you could. So all of these are really kind of customizable. Where's this one? Right there. So you can kind of have it look the way you want it to look. Okay, so on the top right here, you have a preview window. Obviously really helpful because you know what's going out to screens. There's a little audio meter on the side here, which will tell you, like, if you're playing a video, if there's audio. So for example, if maybe we have a bumper video and we click it and play it, and the sound tech's like, I'm not getting audio. Well, one of the first things to look is there actually audio in that video? Yes, there's audio in that video, great. Is the headphone jack plugged in? Yes, it's plugged in. Is the volume turned up on the computer? Yeah. It just adds a layer of assurance that, hey, there's audio in that video and I can see it bouncing up and down. For example, if I went to here, you can see that audio bouncing. On the top right here, you can see what is called, like, enabling the output. And so the audience would be like the TVs or the projector. You can click this on or off. So green would mean like go, like it's a green light to the projectors or TVs, and then red would be like the output's off. So if for some reason, I don't know, something is on the TVs that you don't want to be there, you can quickly just turn it off and it should be black. And then you can adjust what you want to adjust before clicking it back on. But you can also do Command 1, which is a shortcut, which is all really quick and helpful. Stage display is right here, so you guys know that we have confidence monitors in the front row for our worship team. Just helps them have confidence to have the lyrics right in front of them. This needs to be on only if we're hardwiring the stage display, if there's an HDMI running from the computer to the stage display. At all of our locations, we use iPads, so this doesn't really matter if it's red or green, because we're not hardwiring it out. Does that make sense? So our iPad will work whether that's output on or off. To turn that on or off would be Command 2, which you can see I have my stage display pulled up to my computer so I can see what it looks like for me. But this drop down right here where it says TVs, if you have multiple outputs like a TV and projector, you can switch to any of those, or you can switch to the default stage display, which is then here. If I go to the sermon notes, you'll be able to see that. Something else I've been playing with too is you can make like an operator view, which then would show you multiple screens, which you can customize. So you can actually put TVs and stage display on the same preview window, which might be helpful for some people. I might start putting that in so you can select that if you want to. Most of the time, that'll be on TVs. If you want to see what the stage display looks like, you can go right down to default stage display, and it'll be right there. On the right here, you'll see one big kind of reddish, I guess, icon. This is the clear all. So if you want your TVs just to go to black, bam. No matter what's on the screen, it's going to clear out all the layers. But there's also icons right here that you can see. These are called layers. So layers, there's like a bunch of layers in ProPresenter. We don't really probably like utilize these as much, so I'm not going to go into like depth of them, but you can have a video input into ProPresenter 7. This is a clear media. This is a clear slide, clear announcements, clear props, clear messages, and then clear audio. So those are the layers of ProPresenter. They kind of stack on top of each other. Like video would always be the bottom, media would be underneath that. So media would be like any graphic or image or video, and then slide would be anything like text for a song or sermon. So something that you've probably noticed that we like to do is we like to put a background image on our TVs for the sermon. It just helps that it's not black, kind of also brings back like the sermon series or theme. But we often don't want to leave the text on there too long where then it becomes distracting for people. We want them obviously to like be able to take notes, read it, soak it in. But after like a minute or so, and once like the speaker moves on from the topic, we'll use the clear slide button right here to remove the text, the slide, but keep the media, which is our background or image. So that's something that we use very often. If we'd used like worship backgrounds, like the motion backgrounds, like we did for team conference, remember the big LED wall? It had like all the colors and then the words on top. That was like a looping background media, and then we had the slide, which was the words on top. So if we wanted to keep the background but clear the slide, we would use the clear slide button. But if we wanted to clear the media for some reason but keep the slide, you could also clear media, and it would keep the slide. That's all up here. There's a bunch of like playback options right here. There's a play, there's a fast forward 10 seconds, and then this is like a go to like 30 seconds before or from the end. This could be helpful for like cue rehearsals. And then something new that's on ProPresenter 7.5, which I've downloaded, I don't know if our locations have yet, is there's these show controls over here. So you can see audio right here. We could dump a whole bunch of audio files in here if we wanted to and like play them behind announcements or behind the pre-loop. We just use Spotify from a different iPad because then our audio text can like have that rolling and have the bumper audio up and not have to like worry about one being paused and the other one being on. For some churches, putting a bunch of music in here and using that for like pre and post loop, that's what they do. That's not what we do, but once in a while, something might be in there for a random event. To the right, this is the stage display. I love that they put this here because you can actually see which stage display you're on and what you're using. And you can also quickly add stage messages, which we've taken out a lot of our stage displays because it was so complicated to even get to it. But with it being right here, you can quickly type like, hey, Pastor Grace, like you're talking for a really long time. Or hey, or maybe like, hey, the sermon video isn't ready yet, you need to stall. Like, I don't know, stuff like that. And then it would only come up on the confidence monitor. This is like countdowns. So we don't use countdowns much at receiving locations now, but sometimes for events and stuff, we'll put like an image up and then we'll put a countdown clock on it and then just have that rolling from like 5 seconds down. This would be an easy way to do one of those countdowns. What you need to know is there's a bunch of timers that you can put in here. And this would be a quick way to play them, stop them, start them over. Same thing for messages. This messages is different than the stage messages. A stage message is for the conference monitor. These messages are for the actual screens. You can see the countdowns right there. If we were to put a countdown on a slide, you would use a message. You would give the time allotted in the countdown, but then you would play it through a message. This would be the props, and then to clear just the prop would be right here. Again, to clear all would be that big button right there. So also, I think right there, this is how you would customize the transitions for everything coming from those show controls. So a cut, transition, a dissolve. There's a bunch of really weird stuff that I never want to be seen used. It's either a cut or dissolve, like nothing wild, spinning boxes or anything. Something I wanted to show you about the libraries, going back to that, and the playlist is if you go to the library, you can use this filter button right here and you can search sermon, you can search, God, whatever you needed to find. And then what you would do is you would drag and drop it into a service, kind of like that. A little shortcut to finding something if you needed to would be Command F. It creates this like little drop-down library. On the left side here, this is everything that's in our libraries. On the right side, this is something called Song Select. So I'll get to Song Select in a second, but if you wanted to find something here, like let's say the worship team was going into a song that we didn't have planned for, you could look up, you can even look up by the lyrics, not even just the name of the song. And then you can, if you were just to click on it, it would pull up. It wouldn't get dropped into your playlist, but it would pull up so that you can at least access it. Wherever you leave this and you click out of it, it'll pop back up there. You could also use the search button right there and it'll pop up. Song select is something really cool. I'm gonna kind of get into that now. So song select is like a copyright licensing. So we're only able to use a lot of these songs because we have a song select account. We pay for an account to be able to sing these songs and show their lyrics on Sundays. But then we have a streaming license with them too, so we can stream the lyrics. So song select is really cool because it allows us to import songs really easily. It allows us to obviously have the licensing agreement, but really the biggest thing is adding songs. And so if I was to need a new song that wasn't, like if I looked in our library and if it wasn't there, I could go to song select and I could type in the name of the song, like God of Revival. You can see it there. But there's also something called a CCLI number, which if I went to Planning Center and go to a song, there's actually a CCLI number here that our wonderful worship team provides for us, and it gets stored in Planning Center, so whenever we do it again, it's just like right there. I could copy that number, go back to ProPresenter, pull up Command Find, paste that number, and it would pull up only that song. Whereas like if you're searching the name of the song, like there's a lot of songs that have the same name. If the worship team has one thing that they're looking for, like we want to get that one thing, so the CCLI number is super easy. I can click that and import it instead of Google searching the lyrics and copy and pasting that into a presentation. Next thing I wanted to show that's really big is what's called the themes up here on the top left. So a theme is, like we have countdown themes copied in case the other one gets messed up. Lower third themes, which is like all of the kind of like lower third stuff for like broadcast online stuff. Midweek, sermon, and songs. Probably the one that we use the most would be songs and sermons. The themes are super helpful because we can edit it once and then we can apply it to all of our songs. And so you can see right now that all these lyrics are on the top of the screen. So this would be for a venue that maybe just called for it to be higher. But instead of going in and editing every single slide, I can simply click one slide, go to theme, go to song, and then select the lyrics TV center. Give it some time. And you can see right there, it applied it across all of the entire song. So that's awesome to know because it will save you like a half an hour. If you were trying to go and add the same exact font size and font to every single one, it would take forever. And plus, like, this allows us to have the same look across locations. So like somebody walking into Passyung's not seeing anything different that's walking into the Northeast. It helps us kind of look the same across locations as well. The same thing would be for the sermon. These slides are set up in a way that I can apply a new theme. So I needed to just do one slide. I could right click, go to themes. Let's say I wanted this to be a lower third for like our broadcast team. I can apply the Truth and Dare one, and you can see it automatically kind of went to that. I can also do Command Z to turn it back, which would undo it. Something I do want to show too, mostly like for those that are like maybe like coordinators are going to be coordinators and kind of like help set some new things. Most of this stuff is pretty standard, like we don't change it very often. Once in a while we want to update the themes across locations, like let's say we change the fonts or we change the font size or something like that. To kind of like change these, I can kind of like build out on like a master kind of file here, and then the kind of like annoying part is you have to go to like under users, I would go to like my name. Under documents, there's like a ProPresenter folder, and this is where everything in ProPresenter gets either synced up to or down from. So when I'm building a new ProPresenter computer, I would save this folder and then I would put it down onto that one. But to change out the themes, you literally have to take this folder from here I have it copied in a Google Drive somewhere for us in case like a computer somehow like lost it or needed it to be updated. But the way to update the themes, you would literally have to delete this folder and drag in the new one to get the updated themes. So this would be something that I would do with like a coordinator or like a producer on a Sunday where it's like, oh, you guys have the wrong font size? Like, how did that happen? Let me update your themes. You'd have to go into Finder and do that. It's probably not the easiest thing to do. Let's say you need to edit a text box. This is something that a lot of people kind of like said that they wanted to look into. If you're clicked on a slide, you can go right up here to the edit button on the top left, and this would take you to the editor. So ProPresenter 7 tried to make this as close to like a Photoshop, if you're ever like kind of familiar with that. They kind of made it to try and look like that, where like over here you'll see like the objects. There's 3 text boxes in here. The top is like the foreground, and then they kind of go back. So the title text box is in front, scriptures underneath, and scripture references farthest down. Over here you'll see the shape of the text boxes. You can edit the text font size and stuff. Now, all of this stuff should be saved in themes. So if you apply a theme, you don't have to worry about any of this stuff because it's pretty standardized. But once in a while, it's nice to kind of go in and maybe space out text a little bit better. You can see all that here. Then the last one is build. So a lot of times we'll use this build option if a pastor has multiple points and they want to be like, you know, God saved you from your sins. Then you get baptized, then you like, you know what I'm saying? It's like do, and you want them to come on the same slide but come in different points. You can add a build-in, and you can either have them all at once or by bullet. Obviously there's only one thing, so it'll only come up as her name. But that's a way that we kind of build in, or you can have it build out too. One of the things that we do, which can become kind of confusing, is our sermon themes. Like a lot of churches will do a sermon theme for titles and subtitles, and then another one will have it for just like scripture, and then another one just for quotes. We kind of combine them all into one, and there's a reason why we do that. The reason why we do that is so that we can quickly change a theme from a TV to a lower third. It makes my life a little bit easier when I'm making multiple presentations every weekend. Because of that, you'll notice that there's a title, a scripture, and a scripture reference on each. And so a lot of times what can kind of get some of us caught up is you can tell that there's a text in front of the scripture, and that's just the title. That's not something that's going to show on the TV, but in the editor mode, it's going to show you that the text box is there. So a lot of times, some of us are like clicking in here and we're like, why can't I edit the text? But if you click right outside the box, into the scripture box, that's when you can edit it. Or even if you just click and drag in the objects, click and drag it lower, and then click back, then it's easy to edit it because you don't have to worry about the title text because it's not there is no title in this text. You can even go as far as this doesn't have a title. I'm just gonna delete it because I don't need it. And then I can just go and edit my text. But that's something that we do just to make the flow between creating content for TVs and creating content for broadcast a little bit easier, because then you can just apply a new theme and the boxes just go to where we want them for that other theme, and it's like perfect. So, and then you can just apply it across the whole sermon and not have to apply it one slide at another. You know what I'm saying? That's themes, and that's the editor. So to go back from editor, like this, I'm in editor now. To go back to our show view, you'd click the show button up here on the top left, show. To get to editor, you can either click edit or you can click edit slide when you finger click or right click. You can also do something called a quick edit, which would pop up here, and you can edit it from there. Also, when you're in the editor mode, nothing will go on TVs unless you hit show down here on the bottom right. So if you hit show, then it will go to the TVs, which could be helpful if you're trying to size text for a TV. Maybe you're in a situation where the location pastor maybe is asking you, can that be a little bit bigger and the theme's only so big? Well, you take this, you increase the font a little bit. Right now the TV, if I went back to show, you'll notice that the TV is still the same. And I actually don't even think it did save. But then if I hit show, you'll see in the preview window that adjusted. The rest up here, there's a reflow button, which is like some kind of weird editor that I don't like, but it's another way to edit. Or you can look up Bible verses like on the fly. So that's not really how our church works. Like Pastor Joey gives us all of our communicators give us their like sermon notes and scriptures that we haven't prepared. But because some preachers aren't like that, they have this button where you can quickly look up John 3:16 and import it as a slide with a theme, and it's ready to go like in an instant. But we don't ever need it, so it's just kind of there. And then there's more editors here, so you can edit the stage editor, which would take you to, this is the conference monitor editor. You can see right here the stage message box. So this is the theme editor. You can switch through all the different themes here. That's probably like the most that you'd use. I'd go back to show to get us back to this point here. You can also edit the themes by going to the actual theme under the box and click edit. Great way to edit the theme there as well. One of the biggest things, this is like huge when it comes to troubleshooting. Again, this is something that ProPresenter 6, you plugged in the computer, it would look for the TV and it would just show. ProPresenter 7 is going to remember the last thing that you plugged it into. So a lot of times we have different devices going from computer to a converter to the TV. That converter is going to tell the computer that it's getting signal, so the computer's gonna look for the converter. But then sometimes maybe we'll just plug in my computer to a TV, like in kids ministry, there's not a bunch of other stuff happening. This computer is still gonna look for that converter. So one of the best ways to kind of troubleshoot that is going to screens, going to configure screens, and here's when you can select, you have your TVs, whatever audience screen that you have is listed here, and then there's an output. And so I could actually change my output to, right now, Blackmagic HDMI is what I'm going into for this TV. So if I change that, my audience would become that. I don't want to do that because it'll kind of mess me all up. But one of the biggest things that I found in troubleshooting is if the source isn't if the source can't see that, go to screen, configure screens, and check to make sure that the output is what you want it to be. So like right here, you can see the color LCD, that's this screen right here. That's my own computer. Blackmagic Design is this little box right here that's between my computer and the TV. And so if I selected that as the output, which I guess I could, there you go. So you can see it. And then here's stage displays. If you had those like hardwired in, that's where you would find those. This would be also a way of like switching it on or off. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing here. There's some other like weird random stuff here, but you shouldn't ever really need anything else here. But definitely good to know that it's there. All right, so if I was to build a new song, which I'll just start from scratch, like if you were to edit a song, it would be a lot of similar things. You can see that I'm searching in our ProPresenter right here, and obviously we've never done that song before. Something has to break. But if I go to Planning Center, so if I copy that, go back to ProPresenter, go back to Command F, switch the icon over here to Song Select, I can paste that. You can see something has to break. So if I click this, I can import, and in this like little editor, before I actually input it anywhere, it's gonna ask me what theme I want to apply. So this is the Song Center TV one. We're gonna add it to our TBC library, which is where we want it. And you can even choose to like add it to a playlist. I'm not gonna do that. This little icon right here is telling us that we want two kind of like lines for each slide. And then you can even go to the edit version more. And you can do a lot of editing here before you input the song. But I'm gonna skip this and just import it because I wanna show you some of the editor that you can do, because once the song's probably already gonna be in there for you. So like we can kind of skip this. But I'm gonna import that. There's two things that we're gonna need that Song Select never gives us, and that's an intro and like just a blank slide. So I'll usually take the last slide, I'll copy and paste it. I'll edit it just to delete all of the lyrics out of it. and I'll copy and paste it again. To create a new group in the arrangement, once I've created the 2 blank slides, I'm gonna go to the first one, I'm gonna right click, group, and I'm gonna just call this one the intro. I'm gonna do the same thing with the second one, but I'm gonna call this one the blank. So now I have an intro and a blank. Up here, and remember I got this tab by clicking this little button, this is the arrangement tab. This is the default, or the master. So the master is just going to have like our groups. We're always gonna create a new arrangement. I like to call the first one default, and I'll always base this one off of either the first track that the worship team gave us, or I'll just base it off of like the YouTube of the song if they didn't give me a track. And so I'll listen to the song and I'll build it out from there. And then usually once I'm in there, I'll automatically just go and create a chorus and bridge version in case we throw the song at the end of a service or something like that, and we just start kind of hopping from chorus to bridge. That's how you kind of create different arrangements. Once we have a default arrangement, what I'll do is, sometimes the worship team's like, hey, for this service, maybe it's an 8-minute song, and we love the 8-minute version, but maybe on that Sunday, we need it to be 4 minutes, so they'll trim up the arrangement. Instead of adjusting the default arrangement, we'll actually go into the arrangement manager, and we can duplicate the default, and I'll usually rename this like the date of the service that we're doing. So if it's 2021-06-13, which would be this week, that way I know that that's the arrangement that we used for that day. Or you'll probably see it if you've ever seen that. It might be labeled different stuff, but that way we're not affecting the original arrangement. So then the next week the worship team's like, no, we're doing the 8-minute version. Oh, okay, no problem. We're just gonna go here. We won't do the one that we did last week, and we'll do the default. Easy. To create an arrangement, all you have to do is click and drag these icons. So a song will typically go like verse, chorus, back to maybe verse again, chorus into bridge. I don't know how this song goes. I'm gonna listen to it when I'm not in front of you guys and build that out. But all you have to do is click and drag, or if you're removing something, you just have to click it out. You don't have to actually edit any of the slides within the groups. But when you're editing a slide in a group, I'm gonna make sure that these are right. When I went into the editor and I just clicked in here, I can notice that there's just 2 lines. Sometimes there's multiple lines. Even when you ask ProPresenter to put only just 2 on each slide, it just likes to be annoying like that. But let's say you're copying in a verse from Google, like it's the morning of, you don't have time to, or you're copying it from Planning Center, there's a lyric PDF there. Let's say this is like what it looks like when you copy it in, right? It's like all of that. Obviously this is not how the song goes, but let's pretend like it did. There's a really easy way, once you copy all of this in, first off, you're gonna copy it in. Let's say I just copy and exit that out. You're gonna copy it in and you're gonna wanna paste to match style because we want this font size and this font. So it's a Shift Option Command V, or you can right click and do paste with match style. Why? Because we want to make sure that when this lyric comes up, it's not some like super small font that nobody can read, because if you copy it from Google, it probably will be. But once you have all the text in there, there's a super easy way to bump the rest of the lyrics to the next slide. So if you do Option Return, you'll notice that up here is the 2 lines that I had before my cursor, and the rest is on this other slide. So I'm going to click right here again, and I'll do Option Return, and you'll see I'll have another slide. And I'll just keep doing that every 2 lines until I have my song the way I want it to look. So obviously the song is currently wrong, but it was just for an example. And it's so much quicker than copying and pasting 2 songs at a time, or 2 like lines at a time, or having to if I backed up a lot, having to take some of them, copy, delete, add new slide, copy, delete, add new slide. It's just not very quick. So I'm gonna delete the rest of these while I'm here. Another thing on here that you can see is there's little icons that are for shortcuts. So if you needed to quickly jump to the chorus, you can click C and it would jump right there, or B for the bridge, or T for the tag. So if you know the song that well and you're listening and you're like, Oh, that's the verse A. That's verse 1. I think verse, yeah, just the letter. Or if you actually know the actual slide number. So if I did like 15 enter, it would jump to 15. 1 enter, go back to 1. So you can become like a wizard of the keys and just be doing shortcuts and jumping around like crazy. But let me just also, I think this is something that everybody in here knows, but I just want to reiterate. Clicking this first slide, this one's here for 2 reasons. If we wanted like a motion graphic behind the lyrics, this is a great place for it, but also you can now see the stage display. Clicking this allows the worship team to see that first slide. So the second the 5-minute countdown ends, bam, you should be on that. The second the offering prayer ends, bam, you should be on that, because we want to give them the lyric as soon as possible. There's a few ways to navigate once you're in a song or presentation. This would be the same for offering or sermon. You can use the right arrow or left arrow. Right would go to the next, left would go to the previous. Or you can use the space bar. Or you can click with your cursor like this. I think that's like the slowest way to do it. Me personally, if I'm running slides, once I click on one, I'd almost like put my cursor on like the clear, and then I would just click through the song, and then in case I ever need to clear, it's already there and I can just click it off. And then if you're inside of a playlist, just like the right arrow key will go to the next one and the left will go back, the up and down will actually take you to the next song. Weird thing is it'll take you to the next song, but then you have to click the next arrow to get to the first slide. You notice that? So I clicked down once, then next takes me to the blank, and then next one to the first slide. So up and down will help you jump around the playlist. You can also just scroll like this, which you can easily get lost, or you can click these headers down here on the playlist section and jump around a lot quicker to whichever song. So if it's a worship night and the worship team starts singing like the first song again, you can quickly jump here, jump there, and you're right there with them. If you're changing the lyric itself, like let's say a lyric is spelt wrong, or maybe if it's a block worship, we've had this happen before, it's a block worship song and we changed the lyric like the week before or something like that, and like that just maybe didn't get to us when we were creating the song, go and change the lyric within the slide. But if you change the lyric in the slide, it's going to be across all arrangements anyway, so I guess that really doesn't even matter. But if you're creating an arrangement that is specific just for a Sunday, create a new arrangement. But if you know like that the arrangement is, and this would probably be harder for like us to know, but as a worship team, if you know like, no, this is the way Brandon Lake sings Too Good to Not Believe, this is how we're going to do it moving forward, then just change the default arrangement and let that be. What I was explaining to these guys is like earlier is what's a challenge sometimes for this workflow is like I'll create it on a master computer, or somebody will create it on a master computer, then we'll send it out. You guys will overwrite the file on the computer, but then if you guys make adjustments and I don't really know about it on a Sunday, then I'll use the same arrangement that I was wrong with the first time, send it back out to these guys, they'll overwrite on their computer, and then every Sunday you're getting this old arrangement that doesn't work. So that's where communication is really helpful, like for production people and also worship of like, hey Steven, that arrangement was off and you messed up. Like, I need to know that so that I can change it. That way we're not having repetitive problems Sunday to Sunday. Let's say we're back in the arrangement tab and we go to master. If this isn't verse 1, if they're calling it something else, we have a bunch of names in here that like, I mean, if there's something in here that they, if they find something that's not in here, we shouldn't be doing it. But you can add more groups, and there's so many things in here because of how many random things we've had to add, like Spanish courses and Spanish bridges. Like instead of making a whole new song with just some Spanish in it, just kind of adding that to here. But everything should be in here, and the second you apply it to like the first slide in a group, so if I wanted verse 3 to be the ending, then it'll apply it to all of them. If I wanted just the later half to be verse 1 then that's just verse 1. That's how you kind of regroup. let's say we didn't have a chance to do it before the Sunday and we're importing a playlist. Again, how we do it, somebody will make the playlist, put it in a Google Drive folder, we'll download it and play it on a Sunday. The way I export it, it's pretty easy. If you click on the playlist itself, right click, export, you can export it to whichever file, folder, desktop, download, whatever. We have a PP7 file transfer folder, which we use for everything. When you go to export that, there's a little button right here that says include media with presentations. Our first Sunday using ProPresenter 7, didn't see that there, didn't click it. Every location was like, where's our bumpers? Where's our offering media? Where's our 5-minute countdown? Because it didn't include any media with the presentation. So some people do that because it makes the file size a lot smaller, so it's easier to share, but we obviously want to send those things. So for the sake of showing you how to import it, because exporting is pretty easy, I'm just going to delete these playlists, which you can do when you're in there on a Sunday morning. If I'm there, I don't want there to be an old playlist, so I accidentally click it and I accidentally think the worship team's playing songs from last week. Like, I just want to delete it, start fresh. So now that that's empty, I'm going to go to Finder, and all of our computers should have this Drive, this little icon up here that's Google Drive. It's just called Drive. If that's not there, you could Command Spacebar, type in Drive. It's an application that you can load, and we usually use the production coordinator's login for that. But once you're there should be a shortcut for the PP7 file transfer, and this will automatically download in the morning or whenever all the stuff that's in Google Drive. Once it's there, you can simply just click and drag it right there. It's going to ask you what library to import it to, so I'll say TBC. It's going to start unzipping the bundle that we previously exported. Then these kind of like icons will come up. What it's asking you is, there's slides, there's media, there's videos, there's presentations. What do you want us to do with it? Do you guys want us to use the existing ones that are on my local computer? Do you want me to add a new version, which would make like announcements -1, and then the next week would be announcements -2. This would be a great way to clutter up the computer and make it crash in like a month and a half. Or you can write over. So basically, when there's a new arrangement, when there's a new announcements video, when there's a new this, it'll be the new one from that week. There's nothing different at any location at this point that we don't have to not write over. And I want to keep it that way forever. Because if not, you have to go through every single thing and write and click write over or use existing. So for example, we used to have salvation slides for each location, which then the production team would have to click write over for song, write over for announcements, write over for offering. And then the second it was response song, they would have to go use existing. And then for the rest of it, write over. So right now, everything's the same. Apply to all, write over. And that's going to start importing everything. All right, so now that that's there, we can click over here. We have the playlist pops down here. Once we click there, this is common that this will kind of take a second to load up, but then our entire playlist is here. If for some reason something's not there, just delete it and import it again. Try again. After that, if you're still missing something, put it in the production group me and say, hey, we're missing video announcements. Like, is anybody else missing video announcements? And maybe I or somebody else didn't put in video announcements for this week, and we can quickly get it to you. Most likely our workflow would be put it into the playlist, export the entire playlist again. That way you just have to download it again and not have to like find the video in some random Google folder, download it, import it. Like, just re-download the playlist. I want to just touch on importing pictures and videos because that's a pretty big thing for everything that we do. So to start with the sermons, this media right here, this is what we would call, in our organization, we would call this like a preach image. So we have this massive Google Drive folder that has everything we've ever created. It's called Block Current, and then there's a folder for this year, This is stuff that you'll probably never even really see, but I'm just kind of showing you. If for some reason I had to send you an image or a video, I'd probably just send you the link to just the image. You would take that, download it, and import it, rather than make you try and find something in a massive Google folder. But for the sake of just having it available, this is the Preach, or at least this is one of the Preach slides right here. To import an image, once it's downloaded, it's as simple as clicking and dragging. You'll see like that little blue mark right there. Just let it be. I can write over. And there we go, the image is right there. For us, we want this image to be a background because we want it to stay underneath the slides. So once I put that image in, and this is for sermons, I'm gonna right click, go to Media Action Behavior, and select background. This is the only thing in our services that we want to be a background. Everything else can be a foreground. Videos, images, all that kind of stuff can be foregrounds. So once it's a background, the slides can go over top of it, and we can hit clear slide and still have our beautiful background on TVs. Same thing with videos. Let's say Finder's back up. Let's find a random video, maybe under baptism videos, baptism bumper, final. All right. So same thing with videos. You're just gonna click and drag it here and drop it. You can see the video populated. If I click on it, you'll see it obviously plays. I always just let it play out just to make sure that I have all of it. But for now, just clear it. Videos should be foregrounds. And I'm gonna explain to you why. Foregrounds allow us to do two videos next to each other. So a lot of times we'll use what's called a go to next queue, which you can see right there. There's that little timer. And this allows us to go from this image, we'll play this 30-second greeting, and then if I just click to the remainder of that, you can see that little advance button right there. That's telling us it's gonna go to the next video automatically, and we don't have to try and time it up perfectly. So again, you can see that advance going, and then bam, it'll go to the next video. What happens if the first video isn't a foreground, let's say it's a background, is the go to next timer just skips right over it. So if we go from this image to the 30-second greeting, it'll just fly right through it. So it's important to know that the media action behavior is foreground. Now, we have preferences in ProPresenter that every single time you put in a video, it will always be a foreground. That's something that you can choose in the back end of ProPresenter. That's selected on all of your computers, so you shouldn't have to worry about that, but just something to show you. How to put in those go to next timers, you would right click, you would select go to next timer, and you can make the duration whatever you want it to. So if I had like a grouping of pictures that I wanted to cycle through every like 5 seconds or so, this is how I would do that. But for a video, if you put 0 seconds and hit done, that allows us to click on the video, it'll finish the video, and then go to the next image or video. So Passyunk and Northeast both use this heavily with their lighting cues because the lighting cues will be built into a blank slide after the video. It'll finish the video, go right to that light cue, and then the spotlights will be on, right? So we use that, we use this feature a lot. Another thing to know about videos is there's something called the inspector. I don't know why it's called that, I just find it funny. But if you right click, go to inspector, this has a lot of really helpful tools for us. The first thing is right here, you can obviously see like any kind of playback control, but something that's super helpful is, let's say there's a bunch of dead space at the end of a video. Hopefully that's something that I would catch or somebody else would catch, but maybe on a Sunday morning, it's making for a really awkward transition that there's 3 seconds of dead space at the end of the 5-minute countdown before the lights come on for the worship team. So they're just standing there like this, and there's like no audio or anything, and they're like, do I talk? Like, we wanna eliminate that dead space. So something cool in the inspector is you can actually set new out points by wherever it's at. If you click out, that becomes the new endpoint, where if I go back to play the video, it won't actually finish, but it'll just stop at that moment instead. You can go to properties. This playback behavior is often also something that's helpful for us. So let's say you're playing a countdown and it loops back to the beginning, and you don't want it to loop. You don't want it to be a looping video. This playback behavior is where you would go change that from looping to stop. You can also let it loop for a play count like 5 times or 10 times, or you can loop for a time, let's say 10 minutes before service. So if we had a 10-minute scrolling video that maybe it didn't have a timer on it, but we wanted it to just loop for a time, we could do that. We don't ever do that. So this again is something that is in the preferences of ProPresenter, that every time you put in a video, the playback behavior will be stop. Like it's never gonna loop. So if we want something to loop, it should loop. But for some reason, if a video loops for you, this is how you would go and fix it. An end behavior, you can have it fade to black, fade to clear, hold last frame. Fade to black is a really good one that we'll always use. And then this is also so just something cool. There's an audio tab. So Jeff, who does a lot of our audio stuff, he's really helped us let all of our videos be at the same loudness, so that our audio techs never have to like lower a fader or raise a fader based on a certain video. Allows all videos to come in and be at the same loudness. But in case you ever get a video that's like super loud or something, and maybe the audio tech's like, wow, that video is way louder than any others, you can actually go into the inspector of the video and you can actually turn down the volume maybe like 4 or 5 decibels, both left and right channel. And then that would automatically make the video a little bit quieter, maybe to match the other videos. Again, I wouldn't do that unless it's like really bad. We've done a really good job of like making sure that things are pretty normalized for our locations, but that's there. You can also fade in and out of audio if that helps, like audio text. Again, stuff that we like to do in pre. We want our videos to have good fades and to be normalized audio, but just wanted to show you that the tool is here in case you need it. The last thing I wanted to show real quick is under offering. For offering, a lot of times we'll put pictures in like this. And so instead of, I guess there's 2 ways to add images. You can just click and drag it like we've done before, or like you can click and drag it like this and it just kind of populate. And then once you go to edit that slide, there's really not, you can edit the title, scripture reference, but you actually can't edit this image. So a lot of times what we'll do is, especially for pictures like this that aren't like full screen, like the sizing that we want it to, we'll go up here, we'll add a new slide. And then let's say it's a picture that we've downloaded. I'm gonna go to offering media. If I drop this into the slide on the editor version, or the editor view, right? You can see that this picture isn't full screen. I can center this, and if I hold down like Option, I think it centers it and pulls it out evenly so that I can fill the full screen like that, so that it will kind of look good. I don't want it to chop off her head, so I'll bring it down a little bit. But that's how you would import an image the best way. That way it fills out the screen and there's not like a bunch of dead space. Yeah, so if I did Command F, and if I went to light cues, there's actually not a folder for it, but there's actually a presentation for it. So under here, I have all of the light cues that we've created. That light cue presentation is in our PP7 file transfer folder. So locations can grab that whenever they want to. And if we ever edit it, I'll export it again to this folder so that it's always up to date. But pretty much my workflow for right now is I build out the presentation for Port Richmond, and then I duplicate it, and then we have like different presentations, like for example, 5-minute countdowns here. If I do Command F and do 5-minute, there's a 5-minute with light cue included. I'll just click and drag this here, and then I'll just delete the one that Port Richmond would have used. And then I'd rename this from Port Richmond to PY, and I'd add all of those. If it's like an offering one, I'll copy and paste the offering from the other presentation to the one with light cues, and then I'll delete the other presentation off of that playlist. So that's what I've been doing. That's been my workflow. So setting up the service is this easy. Planning Center is integrated to ProPresenter. If you click this add button right here, you can add a Planning Center service. I can go to my Port Richmond folder, adult service, June 13th, select, and it's gonna build out the entire playlist for us, exactly like Planning Center. Then all I have to do is type in pre-service, info loop, click and drag it there, type in 5-minute countdown, click and drag, 10,000 armies, click and drag. Maybe I'll set that arrangement while I'm here. House of Miracles. But that's pretty much how easy it is to build out the order of service, because the way it's supposed to work is your presentations are things that you use week to week, but your playlist is new every week. So then you just click and drag your presentations into your new playlist. And of course, there's little tweaks and edits to your presentations, like offering and sermons and stuff like that, but that's like kind of helps you kind of do it. So it is really easy. It's really not that hard. Maybe like sermons and new songs take the most time.